5 years after they threw me out, they begged me to save them. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 24 years old. When I was 17, my parents drained the $11,000 I had saved for 4 years working 2 jobs and gave every cent to my older sister. My mother looked me dead in the eye and said, "She's your sister. You'll survive without it." When I stopped smiling and thanking them for everything they took, they called me ungrateful and told me to pack a bag. 6 years later, my mother called me at 11 at night, crying so hard I almost didn't recognize her voice. "Vanessa needs you," she said. And I laughed because the girl who left that house with 1 duffel bag was not the girl who says yes. What made me laugh wasn't cruelty. It was the last thing any of them expected me to understand. Before I tell you what that was, if stories about boundaries and quiet justice keep you watching until the end, go ahead and subscribe now because you're going to want to see how this one lands. Tell me where you're watching from tonight. Drop it in the comment. Now let me take you back to the beginning because you can't understand the laugh until you understand the rule we all lived by. There was one law in our house, unspoken but absolute. Vanessa came first. She was 4 years older than me, and by the time I was old enough to notice patterns, this one was already carved into the wall. If Vanessa wanted something, she got it. If Vanessa broke something, I had provoked her. If we both wanted the same thing, the fair solution was always that I let it go. My mother had a phrase for these moments, repeated so often it lost its shape as language. "She's your sister. You'll survive without it." I heard it over a bicycle at 8. I heard it over a bedroom at 12 when Vanessa decided she wanted the larger room, and my father carried my dresser down the hall without once asking if I minded. My father, Robert, had his own way of not helping. He never argued with my mother. He found a project instead, a fence board, a leaking faucet, anything that let him leave the room before the verdict came down. By the time he returned, it was already settled, and settled meant I had lost again. I used to think his silence meant disagreement he was too tired to voice. It took me years to understand that silence in a house like that isn't neutral. It's a vote, cast every single time, and it was never cast for me. I started saving when I was 14, bussing tables at a diner after school, and later working weekend shifts at a pharmacy. I want you to understand what that money meant, because it matters later. Every dollar went into an account meant for one purpose: a design program 2 states away that had already accepted me on a partial scholarship, one that still required real money to cover the rest. Because I was a minor when I opened it, my mother's name sat on that account beside mine. I never thought twice about it. You don't imagine your own mother as the danger. By the time I turned 17, I had $11,000 saved, 1 shift at a time, over 4 years. That same autumn, Vanessa lost her apartment and her job within the same month, and she came home the way she always. I felt something crack open inside my chest, a cold, clear kind of anger I had never experienced before. I stepped out from behind the column, and Daniel's face went white when he saw me standing. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply said, "Fix this, right now. Put my parents back where they belong." Daniel actually rolled his eyes at me. "Claire, please, it's just seating. Don't make this into something bigger than it is." "It's not just seating," I said, my voice low and shaking. "They paid for every single thing in this room, Daniel. Every flower, every plate, every glass of that champagne your mother is drinking right now, and you let her push them into a hallway because she thinks they're not good enough to be seen. My mother has a certain image to maintain," he said, and I watched something in his eyes that I had never let myself see clearly before. Not love, not loyalty, just calculation. He was choosing her. He had always been choosing her, and I had just been too in love to notice. I told him very calmly that I understood. I walked away before he could say another word, and I want you to know that in that moment, I already knew exactly what I was going to do. I made my way toward the small stage where the band had set up, and I asked the band leader if I could borrow the microphone for just a moment. He looked hesitant, glancing toward Daniel, who was now hurrying across the dance floor with a look of pure panic on his face. But I smiled at the band leader, and something about the calm in my expression must have convinced him because he handed it over without another word. I tapped the microphone twice. The sound cracked through the ballroom, and every conversation died at once. 130 faces turned toward me. Patricia was near the head table, already arranging her expression into something gracious, clearly expecting a sweet toast about family and blessing. She had no idea what was coming. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I want to take just a moment to talk about something important, generosity." I saw Patricia's smile falter slightly. "This wedding, everything you're enjoying tonight, the venue, the dinner, the band, the flowers, was paid for entirely by my parents, Robert and Susan. $40,000 of their life savings, money they worked decades to earn." I paused, letting that number settle over the silent room. 5 minutes ago, I learned that my mother-in-law removed their names from the head table and moved them to a seat by the kitchen exit. Because, in her words, they don't photograph well with this crowd. The gasp that rippled through the room was audible, sharp, unmistakable. I saw heads turning toward Patricia, whose face had gone the color of chalk. But that wasn't the end of it. Because 2 nights before the wedding, I had found something in Daniel's email, something I hadn't been able to stop thinking about since. There's something else, I continued, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. A month ago, Daniel told my father he needed an emergency loan to cover a vendor deposit that fell through. My father, without a second thought, wired him $8,000, but that deposit never existed. That money went directly into paying off Patricia's overdue credit card balance, the one she's been hiding from her country club friends for over a year. The room erupted into murmurs. Daniel was pushing through the crowd now. Reaching the edge of the stage, his face contorted with panic. Claire, stop, please. You don't understand? I looked directly at Daniel, and for the first time since we'd started dating, I felt nothing but clarity. Enjoy the rest of the evening, I said, because as of tomorrow morning, I'll be filing for an annulment. This marriage is over. I set the microphone down gently on this, and the sound of it landing echoed through the stunned silence like a verdict. Patricia surged forward, her heels clicking furiously against the floor, already shouting something about ruining her family's reputation. Daniel grabbed for my arm, begging me to reconsider, to talk about this privately, to not embarrass his mother in front of her friend. I simply stepped back and said calmly that every vendor contract for that evening, security, hired and paid for by my own father, appeared at the edge of the dance floor almost immediately, and I asked them politely to escort Daniel, Patricia, and their immediate family from the property. The look on Patricia's face as she was walked out past 130 witnesses, most of them holding up their phones, was something I will never forget. It's been 8 months since that night. The annulment was finalized quietly and quickly. My parents and I used the partial refund from the venue to take a trip together, just the three of us, somewhere warm and far away from everything that had happened. It was the first vacation my parents had taken in over a decade, and watching my mother laugh on that beach, completely unburdened, was worth more to me than any wedding ever could have been. As for Daniel and Patricia, word travels fast in small, image-obsessed social circles. The video from that night found its way online within hours, and by the following week, it had been viewed by more people than I can count. Patricia was quietly asked to step down from a charity board she'd chaired for years. Daniel lost his position at his firm after his employer saw the footage and decided his judgment couldn't be trusted with clients. I don't say any of this with satisfaction. Not really. I say it because it taught me something I needed to learn the hard way. Money and manners are not the same thing as decency. Class isn't a country club membership or a perfectly arranged seating chart. It's how you treat the people who have nothing to gain from being kind. My parents gave everything they had so that I could have one beautiful day. In return, I learned exactly who was willing to stand beside them and who was willing to let them disappear into a hallway to protect an image. I choose my parents. I will always choose my parents. If this story moved you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories like this one, make sure to like this video and subscribe because there are so many more just like it still.